The following interview is a special collaborative presentation by Perfect Organism Podcast and Yutani Podcast. Enjoy.
Mother, how long have we been traveling?
Approximately 24 days.
Ash? Any suggestions from you or Mother?
No, we're still collating.
I've got access to Mother now, and I'll get my own answers. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Clara, but you can call me Mother, and you are listening to Yutani, the podcast for all things alien, AI, robotics, sci-fi, and technology.
Let's rock!
Thank you for joining Perfect Organism Podcast today. I'm here with contributing host Clara, Mother 9000, and today we are talking to Adam Johansson and Damian Martin of Odd Studios, and we, of course, Odd Studios, is the studio who is responsible for the practical effects for Alien Covenant. And again, thank you guys so much for being on. We know that you're busy. We know that you're working on a lot of different things, so thank you.
Pleasure. Yeah, thanks for having us on, guys. Yeah. Yes. Just quickly, it was Odd Studio and Creatures Inc. from the UK. So myself and Connor O'Sullivan were supervisors. So it was both our companies combining forces for the practical creature effects. So yeah, just wanted to clear that up.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, good to know. I did not know that. My first question for you would be, I'm really interested in how Odd Studio specifically got started. How did you get into all this?
Well, I guess, Damien and I have got similar childhoods where we were obsessed with films and creature effects, movies with, rubber monsters. Like most people that are doing this for a living. So we had a healthy obsession with, the weird and wonderful and creatures. And personally, I was always sort of making stuff at home. My career started at a company that made animatronic creatures for theme park rides. I was there for 4 years. It was sort of things like Warner Brothers in Germany, making never-ending story rides and gremlin rides.
Awesome.
So it's very similar to what we do in the film world. It was a really good training ground, actually. It was lots of animatronic puppets, but built really robustly, so they would just run 24/7. But it was the same thing, sculpting, molding, casting. I was always in the art department. I was, and never have been really in the mechy side of things. I was there for 4 years and then started working in film. My first film was Babe, Pig in the City. And
I remember that.
It's a great film.
Yeah. It is. It's a fantastic film. And it was a great first film to be on, George Miller. And I worked with Neil Scanlon, the guys that are currently doing all the Star Wars films. So, that was my first one. Went on to, straight after that, went on to Farscape, which is where the sci-fi show that Damien and I met on.
20 years ago.
20 years ago, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was a big fan of that show when it was on. Another great show.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that was a fantastic opportunity to do a lot of work over 88 episodes. We did a hell of a lot of creatures and makeup effects on that one.
Did you guys work with the Henson Creature Shop with that show? I know that there was a connection there between them.
There was a connection. The connection was, so after I finished on Babe with Neil's team, which are basically Henson's, ex-Henson's from London, I then went over to London with my girlfriend at the time, now wife, and, had a tour through the London Henson shop, which was fantastic, And then while I was over there, the guys were telling me about, there's a sci-fi show going over to Sydney. You should, check it out. when I got back, there was had a bunch of calls and went in and met Dave Elsey and Colin Ware and Lou Elsey, and basically took it from there. So Dave headed up the creature shop, and there was a few UK people that came over with him, and Damien and myself were the first Aussies on it, and we were the only Aussies that stayed for the whole show. So that was my story. Damien's story is, if you want to get it quickly.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, go for it.
Similar background, but I know all through high school I was making things and making up my friends and sort of playing around with prosthetics and casting and molding and sculpting. But during high school I did work experience at a makeup college. So at the age of 15, that sort of cemented what I was going to do. And my parents made me finish school, but straight after high school I did a course in makeup and then a second year in prosthetic makeup. And I used to do a lot of work on stop motion things, small films, commercials. And then, in 98, I got that job on Farscape. So
picking up from there, that's where we met, did 4 years. But it was fantastic because Farscape was 9 months of a year, and in between seasons, both Damien and I jumped on the productions that were coming through Fox at that time. So we did, a couple of Star Wars films, a couple of Matrix films. They were really good times. It was lots of big budget stuff coming through. So it was actually at the end of, towards the end of Star Wars 3, Revenge of the Sith. There was actually 5 of us that were all heading up different departments on different films. Good friends that decided to form a company. That company was Odd Studio. That was 13 years ago.
15 years this year.
15. There you go.
In September it'll be 15.
When we first started, there was 5 of us. You might know an artist called Martin Rezard, great sculptor. He was one of our partners. He's over in the UK now. But it sort of, I guess, it was a little top heavy. So 5 people sort of quickly became 3. And then 3 became the 2 of us. So that's we went from freelance artists for about 10 years, and then we've been Odd for 15.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome. I have a quick question just about Farscape. What was the turnaround like to do what you did on the show? I mean, like you said, there was a lot of creatures, and there's so much, and there's, of course, it's a TV show, so it wasn't like a film. Was it a really tight schedule?
It changed a lot. It depended on how quickly each script came through. Sometimes there was a bit of lead time, but often there was like two weeks to turn around from casting to get a prosthetic.
Oh, wow.
But when we say prosthetics, it wasn't just prosthetics. It was full animatronic creatures. I mean, you've seen the show, so you know what was in there. These were full creature suits with animatronics and prosthetics at the same time. So it was fantastic. It was a really steep learning curve for everyone on it, really, because
we streamlined a lot of production, techniques and methods just to get stuff through through the pipeline quickly.
Yeah. So. Yeah, lots of great relationships forged, and lots of techniques and great experience.
Awesome.
Yeah, having a look at your catalogue of work that you did was on your Odd Studio site last night. I didn't realize how much you guys do, like from things like Matrix to Lamb ads to all the Star Wars stuff, and I was like, whoa! I've seen like your work everywhere, but I've only come to know it like noticeably through following Alien Covenant. So it's really amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's we've been very blessed. Yeah, with we've been very busy. So it's good. I'm blessed to work on some great productions with some great people. And none of it's possible without our fantastic team. So yeah.
What sort of advice do you have for people who want to go into your line of work?
Do it. Make things. Start making straight away. Don't say you want to do it. You know, we were both, Adam and myself, were in our bedrooms as, you know, children, teenagers, making things. You know,
so you get some modelling clay or even Play-Doh and just go nuts.
Yeah, no, that's right.
It's all sculpting and painting, really. You know, what we do is sort of the backbone of it, and a bunch of other, you know, technical stuff. But if you want to get into it,
yeah, there's really no excuse to just be saying you want to do it and to have nothing to show for it. You know, when people come through, we love just seeing folios full of stuff. It doesn't even have to be
not about the quality.
Fantastic. No, it's just the quantity. Really, it's just okay. This person's really. It is genuine. They really want to do it. I can see, you know, there's 20 unfinished sculptures are better than, you know, nothing, you know, and just we get a lot of students, I guess, coming through straight out of college and you know, there's some really good ones in there, but there are some that have literally just done what was required of them, you know, in that course, and it's the other ones that stand out. It's the people that go above and beyond what was required in a course, and you can see that they've just been at home just sculpting or, yeah, like Damien said, painting, drawing, just sticking stuff on family members, you know, all that stuff. That's what we want to see. So if you're really into it, just do it. Yeah, and then once you've got sort of, you know, a good chunk of images together, go and visit, you know, shops, contact people that have been in the industry for a while, you know, people whose work you admire and
put your hand up for student productions and small budget things and contact the, you know, film schools, because I got a hell of a lot of experience just doing, you know, essentially work for kit fee, and that was about it, but it gives you that on-set experience and the help build a portfolio.
Chase it, but you need to be to make it in this industry, you have to just be so dedicated, really. I mean, it's not a career you can kind of just,
no one's going to hand you a job.
You
have to really be a go-getter.
You have to be, you have to live it, you have to be really passionate about it.
In the past 20 or so years you guys have been in the industry or interested in the industry, has anything noticeably changed in your line of work that you used to do, say in the beginning, and now it's changed? Like, for example, 3D printing technology and versus sculpting and stuff like that.
Lots has changed since we started. Absolutely, like just in film generally, you know, the quality of filming, the you know, the level of realism we all need to you know, achieve to convince audiences has really stepped up. There's a whole bunch of things from silicon you know, foam latex to silicon to 3D printing now.
Digital design.
It's
been around for quite a while, and the impact that, you know, obviously digital effects has had and continues to have, and it seems to be a bit more that we work together now. It doesn't seem as adversarial as it seemed for a little while. People are using both, you know, they're all tools. So, you know, it's finding the right tool for each story, I suppose.
So that's right. It's a nice marriage between, and we've had so many projects recently anyway, really big ones, Alien, Pacific Rim. There's a bunch that we've worked very closely with the visual effects team to...
you had Gods of Egypt and Pirates of the Caribbean, so there's noticeably a lot of digital effects in there, but even when looking at your practical effects, makeup and stuff like that, you can see that it's hardly a lot of digital effects. I thought it was all digital until I saw you guys' portfolio, and I was like, oh shit, you guys have actually done a lot of work. It's really amazing the transformation that you did on Javier.
Yes, Javier was a that was one of my highlights actually. That was a really fun gig. Yeah, that was great fun. All the ghosts were it was just a really fun gig, really fun design.
Did you have to do his makeup every day?
Yeah. Well,
Every time he's a ghost.
Every time he's a ghost, he was obviously in the film before he was a ghost. Yeah, we weren't working on him every single day, but yeah, I was applying his prosthetic makeup with Rick Finlater. So yeah, but he was great. It was great fun, Javier. It was a bit of a struggle for him in the makeup, but he. Yeah, he did. I guess he didn't love the process of having things glued on his face, but he did very well.
Oh, he does really.
Yeah.
Some people do.
Some people do.
Some people love it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like G. Rush? Sorry, Jeffrey Rush.
Absolutely. How'd you know that? Yeah, he was. He was. Yeah. So, did his makeup in Gods of Egypt. He was Ra, full bald cap, and he really does embrace the.
He did a lot of theatre, so I just guessed he would be used to it.
Yeah. No, he loves the transformation. He's very involved in the characters and how they look, and yeah, he's a real pleasure to work with. Yeah.
What was it like? Like, I guess in with Gods of Egypt and Dead Man Tell No Tales, there's different places where you're putting on the makeup, like compared to, like, say, Mad Max in the Nambian Desert. It's kind of, you guys are like working in, it feels like war zones when you're putting on the makeup on the artists, whether you're in the studio or out on site. What was it like doing that?
For Pirates? Or
for all of them? Like, what's the difference between them all?
Oh,
you felt?
I mean, being as remote as you are on something like Fury Road, it has its own problems with just, you really have to plan ahead and make sure that getting things can take weeks. So it's really planning, ahead of time, and having everything sort of at your fingertips. So if there's last minute changes, you've planned for that. Whereas, Pirates for the most part was studio.
Yeah,
and near the studio. But I mean, the reality is, for most of them, you're still sort of working out of a makeup bus in the morning, then traveling to set. So that's sort of your workshop, I suppose. The way you start each day is actually quite similar. You're inside a makeup bus with mirrors and lights, and then then you step out, and that's when it's different. Yeah, in the desert or up in Queensland or at a studio.
Yeah, it can be incredibly remote at times, but it is all, as Damien said, just about planning. Milford Sound was really, really beautiful, but quite remote as well. That was for the opening of Alien. For us, it was all-night shoots and lots of rain, lots of insects, but it was fantastic.
Yeah, what stuff were you on site for when you were shooting at Milford? Because us as the audience, it all seems like it was all shot there. But as I know from interviewing Dominic Hailstone and Grant from cast from Dungeon Effects, like, things were done on the Fox lot and some stuff was done at Milford Sound. That's right. Yeah.
Actually, there was some stuff out at Potts Hill as well. So the Milford Sound stuff for us was, as a department, was our first real moment, because it was the mouth bursting Hallett scene. So that was, we had a full dummy and prosthetics and everything going.
So that was shot first?
For us, yeah, that was our first moment. So yeah, that was shot out there. So when they come down and they land, obviously that's all Milford Sound, and when they're running around, all that sort of stuff, Milford Sound, and coming back or trying to get back onto the lander, all that stuff. Yeah, so that it's also the first time we see the infant neomorph sort of attack. So we had. In addition to the Hallett dummy, which was the first scene, we also had we shot the anchor scene there, where he gets, obviously, cops a tail in the head. So we had a full puppet rig for that.
I was wondering about that because you haven't shown any pictures yet.
No, I haven't actually. I'll get to, we do have, funnily, we reshot that actually out at Potts Hill. There was a couple little pickups we had for a couple little moments in the Hallett scene as well, when the we've done the writhing around puppet thing, and then it comes out and it's sort of the baby bursts out of the mouth sac and sort of runs off. We did a couple little pickups, B unit on the lot at Fox Studios, and then we did the anchor pickup out at Potts Hill. So the end result was quite different. Personally, I quite liked the first one we did. It was quite brutal, but it's a very, very, very quick moment in the film. You really
blink and you miss it.
Yeah, don't.
It is. I really like it though.
It was really brutal. Yeah, it was literally. We made a puppet of Alex, and it was as simple as, it was a puppet that's sort of the torso, realistic looking head, and it sort of drops out of frame, and we just hit it in the head with a spear. Fashioned a spear that was basically a neomorph tail.
Yeah, it was a steel version of the tip of the tail, so it was actually kind of a blade on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Smash the jaw off the puppet, really. Yeah, I mean, Ridley loves all that stuff. He loves it. So, yeah, we had that, and then a whole bunch of tubing and blood rigs and things to sort of gush blood through the nose and mouth and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it was quite the raw footage. I think it was really good, but it's a very quick moment.
Yeah, about Hallett's mouth burst, just because you've brought it up, because I've interviewed Yuli Latikefu recently, and he said that it couldn't be kept a secret what was going to happen to the Hallett puppet, because obviously it was quite involved for the actors to react, and they needed to gesture and move the puppet to simulate movement.
Right.
What sort of technical instructions did you give them when handling the prosthetic body, and what sort of instructions did Ridley give? What was it like to work with Ridley to get the scene to come to life?
Yeah, it's a good question, because there's a bit of a story behind how it ended up being shot. So we planned. What's it like to work with Ridley? He keeps you on your toes, that's for sure. There's some discussions before you sort of get on set with things, but you have to be ready to. Connor actually warned me about him. Connor had done Prometheus and said, you just have to be ready for anything on set. And that couldn't be truer with when we took the Hallett dummy on set. We made that dummy to be on its back. That whole set scene was a set lifted off the ground, a raised platform that we were going to get underneath the puppet. And there's a small window because the tide's coming in, it's very wet, and we were going to have crew underneath this Hallett puppet bursting through. We rehearsed it for a long time, a good week when we got over to Milford Sound. In that position, he was Nathaniel was going to be writhing around on the ground, and then it cuts to our puppet, and we're underneath the platform, and we sort of up and through its mouth. We were literally pushing through this mouth burster sac. His dummy was writhing around, pneumatics. It was all going. But when we turned up with the dummy on set, really was. Asked to see it, and we showed him. He's like, okay, that's cool. Yeah, he's going to be sitting up over there. And, Connor, myself, Colin Ware, and Rob Trenton all, kind of looked at each other and was like, oh, okay. He doesn't really have a back. We've sort of made this to be laying on his back. And he's like, yeah, no, he's got to be sitting up, I think. So it just kind of flipped everything, and then that's when we sort of had the crew holding the dummy. So that's sort of where we ended up. The dummy was sort of propped up. They were sort of supporting him, holding the dummy, and I was sort of at the front dressing, pushing the mouth sort of in, and Rob was behind pushing his hand through, and Colin and I were dressing, and I think Connor was behind just supporting Rob. There was a whole heap of people all in this very, very small space, and there were about 4 cameras.
So that's why the scene was filmed so tight, because I was wondering about that, because everything seemed very panned out, And then when it came to that specific scene, they're like really close up on his mouth.
It is, yes, really, really tight. And then it sort of, yeah. I mean, look, I think it worked. I think it looked really, really, really cool. I really like that in the finished film, but it's not what we planned. And I guess that set the tone for me. That was the first time I, actually had filmed something with Ridley, and that sort of set the pace and scenario for every other effect we did for the film. Everything sort of changed, but it was, I couldn't. Yeah, it was a highlight, career highlight. Really, I loved it. I love working with Ridley. He knows what he wants, and he likes to get everything in camera. He likes to shoot everything. He likes to work it out, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. I have a question for you about that scene, but before I get to that question, I want to kind of backpedal just a little bit. A gentleman that I spoke to, actually his name is Peter Tyndall. He worked on the spinners for Blade Runner 2049, and he's been working on the Dark Crystal project that's shooting in the UK. And he said, I got into this business because he had a love for actually Jim Henson's the original Dark Crystal. It's like, he's like, I always thought if they ever did another one or whatever, I would love to do it. He said, and it kind of magically happened. And he kind of talked a little bit about that. And so thinking about that question and answer, was there any project that both of you thought, man, if they ever explored this universe again, we'd love to be a part of it, and then it kind of materialized? Star Wars and Alien.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it really was. Yeah, it really was both those. Yeah, I mean, I've
been so fortunate. Tick Star. I mean, with Star Wars kids, that's a seminal movie that got both of us in, passionate about this, creatures and aliens and that sort of makeup effects and creature effects world. So that as an opportunity was something you never thought was going to happen.
No.
And it did. It's pretty magic.
Yeah. For me it started with the first Star Wars, for us, first Star Wars was Attack of the Clones, but more directly the second one for us, which is the third, Revenge of the Sith. I was in the costume props department with Ivo, and we were, I was sort of one of 5 people working on the Vader suit. So that was...
Oh, wow, that's great.
For me, and we have our names engraved on the inside of the helmet. And for me at that time, and still now, but, working with George Lucas on a Star Wars film and making Darth Vader, was just, this can't be topped, at the time. I was so incredibly blessed and kicking, I couldn't believe it. And then I guess, Ridley and Alien. I mean, creature effects supervisor on a Ridley Scott Alien film with the xenomorph in it. I mean, it really doesn't get much better for, like Damien said, rubber monster nerds like us. So, very blessed.
That's awesome. So I'll move forward again. Do you guys ever, and this is kind of maybe a comical question, but is there ever a point, and I know that you, for a living, you make creatures, you do all sorts of things, and I also know that it's technical. It's not just all sculpting and, the fun stuff. Sometimes it's technical. But is there ever a point where maybe you're making something that makes you sick? That you're like for instance, the Hallett throat burster. I mean, I remember seeing that on Alien Day. There was 10 minutes of footage that showed with Alien. And I remember walking out of this theater. And it takes a lot to really... disturbed me, and that scene, and of course in the backburster, but that scene, the throat scene specifically, it made me sick, and it was very, and I was like, man, this movie is going to be very interesting, and I'm curious, do you guys ever get woozy?
I used to be able to research real gore as reference, and now I'm a lot more squeamish about real referencing real sort of images.
I agree with what Damien just said. It's the researching of... it's not so much the creature sort of effect stuff, it's more...
Nothing we really make. I've never really been disturbed. It's a bit... things can be a bit gooey and yuck, like... tactile-wise, playing with slimes, and it's a bit
sort of fine.
And hair and that sort of mucky stuff. But it's the reference that
I think for me it was as soon as as soon as I had kids, it was a bit, you know, a lot of the forensic books, you know, like burns or, you know, injuries. There's a lot of, you know, really hard, you know, images in there with children and things, and it's really, we're not so good at researching those things anymore.
When I was younger, I was like, I could detach, but now, I don't know.
A bit closer to home, so it's the referencing that really ekes us out more than the finished thing. But I guess, to take a lighter side to that, I guess, the mouth. There were some really, I don't know if you saw. I did post. We did some test footage of the mouth burst to sack movement. There was a little test video.
Yeah, I saw that.
And we used that to pitch to Ridley the idea of the materials and the look and the movement of how we thought the neomorph, the baby neomorph, would move within this sack. I really liked that. We really, it was really gross. And that is literally Emily, who works here with us. She's just got both her hands in this hot melt vinyl sack, basically. Damien sculpted up. If you know the poltergeist, you know, the worm, Giger's worm, it's literally that, but just a hot flesh sock, basically, and all KY'd up, all looped up, and it is pretty gross. It was, but it's a good gross. It's it didn't eke us out too much. But, really loved it, and that's what we ended up using for the Hallett dummy.
Do you guys ever encounter actors who are working in scenes like that scene? And for the record, and we've discussed this on an episode before, just discussing Covenant, the backburster scene in Covenant is probably the most intense alien chest burst or whatever scene that I've ever seen. It really phenomenal. I mean, it was really, really great work on the part of everyone involved, so bravo for that. But I'm also curious, in situations like that, when you have actors and they're in prosthesis or there's rigs, do you have to deal with actors who maybe are getting sick or who are like, oh, this is a lot, this is intense? Because it's different for you, where you kind of, that's the stock you trade in, that's what you do. For them, it's a little bit different.
Nathaniel Dean Hallett, where we've worked with Nate before. He's fantastic. He was just so into it out of Milford Sound. He was just, man, more blood. So, that's great. So for the backburster, it was actually a double that we had the moment when it was sort of bursting out. A stunt double in there, and he was hanging backwards upside down for the good part of a day, which was really hard going. Really, he did fantastically well. But he sort of signed up for it, I guess. But yeah, you're right. There are times it does ask a lot of some actors, and some deal with it better than others, I guess. Yeah, especially, depending on location and temperature, it can, blood, sticky, gooey.
When you
it
fill
can be
someone's
freezing
underpants
cold.
with blood, they can novelty wears off pretty quickly.
Yeah, so you've got to be very mindful of that as well.
You're trying a person underneath.
There's it's hard on them. You've got your headphones on, and you've got Ridley sort of shouting down the lines of more blood, want this, and so you're sort of trying to juggle, obviously giving everything you can for Ridley and making the shot work, and also sort of, looking after the actor and making sure that, they're comfortable enough and they're safe. And so it's a balancing act.
With the Leadwood backburster, what sort of difficulties did you have with deciding on a method of expulsion to go with? Because I know you had the cannon, which you did a test run for, and it was a bit too brutal. Was there a lot of room for trial and error before filming on the day, going from concept to set?
Yeah, there was a bit. Yeah, we did play around with a whole bunch of stuff. I filmed Connor and Rob. I think that's what you're referring to. where it's literally just a big foam latex syringe that we filled with. For that, just as proof of concept, it was just water and some, hot flesh, vinyl wigglies and ernies and things like that, bursting through a sack that was through the, Ben Rigby puppet, the back of the puppet. So yeah, we kind of knew that was pretty great, really. It was pretty full on. Ridley wanted something. Ridley was referencing the birth of an elephant. If you've ever seen that, Google it. An elephant giving birth. It's that kind of. Yeah.
It's like a waterfall. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. It totally is. And just a baby elephant just sort of falling out. So it was sort of like that. That's what he wanted. He wanted that kind of intensity. So we knew we had to really push a lot of volume of whatever it was through, essentially a membrane which went through the back. So we had that. We knew that was going to give them elements and parts of that entire scene. But we had everything from, like I said before, stunt doubles. Ben was in there. We had a dummy, which we fired through. We had a section of it back for close-ups so that it would be a hand pushing the puppet through as well. There was a whole bunch of different things we used to achieve that final effect.
It all looks really seamless. It's really amazing. Going from the Ben to the stunt double to the prosthesis, I couldn't tell who was who. Yeah. There's a lot going on. There's also that moment when you see the spikes coming through the back. So again, that was literally a piece of back dummy that was different to the dummy back that we used to for the syringe, and we just stabbing stuff through the silicone and. Resetting was resets on things like that are kind of the trickiest bit, I guess, because it's you never get it first go, even though you try. Especially there's always more. So we trying to make having enough it takes was quite full on, and that set, the med bay itself, ended up being the because obviously that happens, and then there's a whole heap of other scenes that happen within that once it's sealed off, which had our baby puppet and sort of adolescent puppet in there as well. And it was the bloodiest set I've ever seen, really. It was just literally just coated in blood. Our department had vinyl blood mats in there as well. It was incredibly slippery. I was going to say, you guys would have had to do the animatronic puppet of the backburster. Was it hard to not slip over yourselves while you were in there?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like kind of ice skating, really. I was trying to run around with this neomorph on a rod, trying to get it from one end of the room to the other, and Ridley sort of screaming faster. And it was almost impossible just to stand in that set, let alone running with a big silicone puppet. But yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Yep, so we can't really fault, everyone slipping over the blood in the movie and puppeteering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So going to the actual hero puppets for the neomorph and the xenomorph, because the xenomorph's quite a tall puppet. I've seen the puppeteer's head in the chest cavity. Were there any specific considerations that had to be made when creating the puppet, such as height and weight, range of movement? Were there any scenes where it was difficult for the puppet to perform, that it had to be done by CG entirely?
Yeah, yes. I mean, it was always going to be, we always knew there was, there's going to be digital. To be honest, when the first conversations with Connor and myself, we weren't actually making any creature suits. It was going to be CG, and then it evolved during the course of pre-production that Ridley wanted suits for both the xenomorph and the neomorph. The xenomorph, the one you're referring to, the full-scale Xenomorph had Andrew Crawford in it, and yeah, he's on blades, stilts. He's wearing the animatronic head on top. It's a Bunraku style puppet, which was great for giving the sense of scale and getting those incredibly thin proportions of the Covenant Xenomorph, which is, as you know, very different to the biomechanical Xenomorph. And that was the purpose of that suit. But that, obviously, there's a lot of limits to what he could do in that. Although he was amazing, he did, run down the ramp out at.
Oh, really?
He did. He gave it a bash. Yeah, I was sort of standing just behind the camera, ready to catch him, and it was coming down that ramp and then onto these really big rocks down the bottom, where all those engineers are sort of burnt. That whole the footing there was.
It's a quarry. It's an old quarry.
It's a rocky quarry, so it was like again hard to walk on, let alone running on stilts. With a big Xenomorph head on. But he did a job on that. But we always knew that was going to be limiting, and
especially through tight corridors and on the sets.
That's right. So we built another suit, which was your traditional foam latex suit, and that was worn by Goran Declut, who was the Neomorph as well, the adult Neomorph. So Goran played the adult Neomorph and the Xenomorph, the suit version. And Connor and I have shared those photos on social media. They're on our websites. You can see the difference, and the proportions, of course, are, although Goran is incredibly thin, are a little different. But that was for, like Damon said, corridor shots, running through, lander and all that kind of stuff, where we could use the full scale suit.
Since Goran was in both suits, was there any time to shoot that Neomorph and Xenomorph battle? Like, was that ever going to happen? Or did it happen and it didn't work, or?
Yeah, I'm not yes, we did. To answer your question, we did shoot that. There was a it was pretty rough. It was just sort of blocked out sort of thing, and I did see an early sort of visual effects cut of that, but I don't know. Yeah, obviously that wasn't in the final film, so I'm not sure. That's a question for Ridley, really, but it was certainly in the initial script, and. Yeah, but yeah, not to be.
So, do you guys know? Obviously, there's a photo on your the Odd Studio page of the shirt with Studio ADI, which of course was responsible for the alien effects for a couple of films, and then of course they worked on more than a couple. They worked on Aliens, which you obviously know. Do you guys ever exchange notes? And I don't mean that obviously in an obvious way, but were there any discussions like, are you friends with Alec and Tom? Did you ever have any discussions like, hey man, we're on an alien film, what should we know? Anything like that?
Yeah, we are friends. Yeah, actually just chatting to Alec yesterday. So he was referring us for another job, but not, I guess, yes, we're friends with those guys. Respect each other's work, but we didn't actually compare notes for this Alien. No, it's to be honest, it's Ridley's the designer. He's obviously the director. It's Ridley's sort of baby. So you listen to Ridley, and he's giving you the references that, again, for things like the elephant birthing, or the Neomorph was the goblin shark. It's all sort of Ridley, and it's Ridley who you talk to and default to. Yeah,
he's the encyclopedia of what it's got to be.
And that's the fun of it, trying to come up internally in the workshop and amongst ourselves. How to
what's our take? What's
our take, and how do we practically build that? How do we achieve that?
For sure.
And that's
I was actually I went to the Studio ADI and I had a tour, and I interviewed both Tom and Alec, great guys. Of course, all of the stuff that they've made for the Alien films, which I don't know if you guys have been to the studio, but it's very, very amazing.
Yes,
but I was just it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
My last sort of big question for you guys is a little bit more I would say controversial amongst the fans, and then I'll pass it off to Clara after this. There was a lot of speculation and talk in terms of what was practical, what wasn't, what was supposed to be practical, and what wasn't. And I think, you guys being here speaking with us can kind of, as much as you can kind of quell the arguments or the discussions. And there was this idea that a lot of the alien was going to be practical, and even myself, I was wondering, there's a few clips where you can see close up of the creature, and you can see the inner jaw coming out, and it looks kind of very silverish, looks like it's in water, and I was like, well, is this practical or is this digital? I didn't know. And what was the expectation when you guys came aboard in terms of how much practical was going to be used in general, as opposed to how much digital was going to be used?
Yeah, I mean, that is the hot topic. When we first came on the project, I think I mentioned before, we weren't going to be building suits for the xenomorph and the neomorph. There was a bunch of obviously practical things, and there's everything that's populated in David's lab is obviously all practical. All the burnt engineers were obviously all practical, and they were, elements like the back burster, mouth burster, chest burster, things like that. We knew we were always building dummies.
Dead bodies,
we knew all that was happening. So we had a really big workload when we went in. And we were always sort of told that the aliens, the creatures, were going to be visual effects, going to be CG. So when it came to requesting that he wanted things to shoot in camera, it's part of Ridley's process, to sort of get things in camera and shoot them. Whether they end up in the finished film at all or parts of it at all, it's working with Charlie, who was the visual effects supervisor. He loved having things there as well. It was never a us versus them. It was trying to achieve a great creature, a great effect. I guess. To be honest, when we came on, it was like, cool, this would be great. Let's build all this, and let's hope that we can get some of our stuff just left in there, kind of raw, and maybe a bit of visual effects here or there, or over the top, and maybe some scenes are just going to be entirely visual effects. That you'd be crazy to think that
physics would allow certain scenes
some scenes wouldn't be visual effects. But I guess it was sort of disappointing to see the amount that was visual, CG in the end. There was certainly some stuff in there that is our stuff, and elements that were taken from, shooting at puppets and things like that a lot of people don't realise are practical. Mm-hmm. But I guess, as a practical artist, you're always sort of hoping there's a bit more in there than there was, that's for sure. And, like I said, Damien and I grew up with rubber monsters, and your Rick Bakers and Dick Smiths and Steve Johnsons. It's all about having a practical creature in there, and that's what the audience loves. That's what we love. So you do hope that there's a little bit, more in there than there was. When it came out, it was a bit disappointing in that respect, but it wasn't a surprise either. No. We were pleasantly surprised and embraced the fact that we were asked to make those suits, and
I think they were fantastic tools, both for the actors to work with, Ridley to work with, and the visual effects team to have something practical and on set, and in that light, you've got something that you're matching to. So even if you're digital, it becomes digital. There's a precedent of sort of how it should look in the environment. So it's it's a tool that Ridley uses. Like, he really does, he wants to shoot, needs something there, work it all out, and it's like, this is fantastic, this is great. And like I said, they're all scanned, they were all, all the elements were taken, and that Charlie and his team sort of used a lot of that, and achieved some great shots in there because of our puppets and suit work from Andrew and Goran. So
Did you have a live cast of Goran to make the neomorph suit? Because it looks quite tight-fitting.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we live
full body cast.
Yep.
Did you get to discuss with him like the suit's flexibility, movement, and comfort, or do you speak to Ridley about that?
Well, both, but yeah, no, we absolutely spoke to Goran and Andrew. Anyone that wears a suit, has to know the what they're going to go through. So yeah,
and there's a lot of fittings prior to being on set, so they get a sort of hint, and they're in the workshop moving around in it, and we can tweak this, and we need to tighten up here, or.
So they get a a lot of rehearsal time as well, and in particular for Andrews, especially getting around on those stilts. It required a lot of rehearsal. So, but yeah, it's hard going.
Were the actors in the suits for like long periods of time, just like in the original Alien and in Alien 3? Like, did they practically have to live in the suits while they was shooting?
On those films, I'm not.
Yeah, on this film.
On this film. Yeah,
Covenant. Yeah, I mean there were long periods. Yeah, exactly. So you build the suits in a way that you can relieve the actor as quickly as possible. So the heads were, that's obviously heads and hands, and back access. So you can actually, there's a few photos online that we've released of literally standing there with a leaf blower, just blowing air through the.
That's what it is, a leaf blower.
Yeah. So in between shots, you're every take you're out there, sort of making sure they've got lots of air, water, but then there's a little bit of a break, and you don't have the time to totally de-rig them. Then you've got to build the suit so the head and hands at least can come off, but they can be in. Yeah, I think Goran was in it for the longest period of time in the xenomorph suit for for a couple of hours. Yeah, pretty full on. But as long as you can make sure that they're cool, they're not dehydrating, and they've got fluids, and and then some of the.
I saw you did quite a few live casts for this film. You've got Carmen Ejogo, Nathaniel Dean, Jussie Smollett, James Franco, Numi Rapace, Tess Horbridge, Ben Rigby. Did I miss any?
Nate,
Andrew and
Andrew Goran.
Oh yeah, Andrew and Goran. Yeah.
Alex, everyone, I think. Well, we didn't do. Yeah, obviously we didn't do. Well, there's a couple we didn't do, but there's a couple we got from the States as well, actually. So friends.
Oh really? Okay.
Access to them.
The actors weren't coming to Australia in time, so yeah.
We got friends overseas in overseas shops to do some of those, but yeah.
Oh, cool.
Pretty much everyone was cast, yeah.
Also wanted to say thank you for the David's lab. It's just absolutely stunning, and I like the sectioned neomorph head. That was really cool. Seeing Dane's sketch come to life into 3D. I believe Adam did that, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's Dane's work. Actually, Dane's here with us now. He's in our studio. I don't know where he is. He's just come in. We're working on where is he? We should get him in here, actually.
Yeah, we were talking to him last night, and we said you should crash the interview.
If you heard the doorbell ring earlier, that was yeah.
Where are you, Dane? He's hiding somewhere. Yeah. So the oh look, the David lab was at the end of the film, and here he is. Come in. He's coming in. Here he is.
Special guest appearance. Hey.
Hey, Dane.
Hello, Dane. How you doing?
Hey, good. Thanks. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Yeah, so the question was about the David lab and the neomorph slice. So yeah, that was always going to be a bit of a reward for the creature shop. I was always like, oh, everyone, everyone have a piece. Everyone have a piece. Get in there. It's the end of the film. Really wanted everyone just to, as a celebration, wind down. Everyone sort of create your own thing, and let's try and get it in the lab. And yeah, so it was crazy shoot, and then sort of leading up to when the lab and the egg room was sort of getting made, wandered down, segregated Dane and Matt in there. Dawn was in there at the time, and there's Dane's sliced. Well, there's a couple of sketches actually from Dane that I saw that I was like, oh, I've got to do that. That I'm gonna make that. Yeah, and the sliced neomorph was one. That was the main one. I saw that and was like, yeah, this would just be this would be an amazing piece.
The egg was also really amazing too.
The what? Sorry,
the egg, the sliced egg.
Oh, the sliced egg, yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah. That was a lovely piece.
That was 3D.
That was 3D printed, that one.
Really? Where are those?
Yeah.
Where are those props?
If only we knew.
Actually,
The sliced egg ended up at Scott Free in the UK. It's right next to David's suit from Prometheus.
There you go.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. A lot of
I keep track of these things.
Yeah, it's not fun. A lot of things were bundled up because they were sort of going off. They were, from memory, they were going to recreate David's lab at a Comic-Con or something. Is that right, Dane?
Yeah, they did like a bit of a exhibition where they tried to put everything back together. That's a reprint of a lot of the drawings that went missing, and they sort of put it together. It was a bit. I think it was done really quickly, a bit mishmash, but yeah.
Yeah. And there were things in there. I don't know if you remember. There's a sort of a hybrid neomorph xenomorph sort of bust, and that was sort of, a Dane thing. And I sort of sculpted that up and sort of played around with it. And then Ridley really liked that, so he sort of made one for his office. And I'm sure some of those pieces ended up, somewhere.
Elsewhere, yeah.
In terms of David's lab, was it something that you guys had to, like, could you just do whatever you wanted, or did you have to have I'm sure that there was obviously a general design and a general art direction, but in terms of the props and the stuff there, is it just, hey, we're going to make this, we're going to make that, or how did that go?
It was a bit, yeah, there were elements.
There were elements. There was always going to be the engineer.
So Damien headed up the flayed engineer, the David piece. It was fantastic, full scale. There were
that kind of evolved. There was going to be a flayed engineer, and then that's sort of let's make it sort of in the slightly mirroring the statue of David sort of pose.
Slash Da Vinci, yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there were pieces in there that were like, oh yeah, cool, that'd be great.
Slice was there very early.
The egg slice was in there. The Giga's, the sliced egg with a face hugger in there. That was like, let's do that. But to answer your question, there was a lot of stuff where I was sort of like, yeah, let's. Hey, what do you want to do, man? And we just sort of walk around. Dom did some great stuff. It was like, yeah, cool. We need a little conjoined skeleton, and why don't we have a conjoined skeleton anyway? So I was like, Dom sort of madly ZBrushing, and lots of stuff were sort of printed as well. So everyone kind of, you've got that world. You're in Giga's world, so you've got that kind of as a,
Excuse me for a moment.
As the backbone to feed off. But there's a lot of stuff in there that people have just gone and and run wild with it, and that was part of it. It was it was part of the kind of reward, I guess, for the department. So everyone just sort of try and get something in there. And see what you come up with.
It is beautiful. I mean, I wish, as with everything, I'm sure that you're a part of, I wish the camera would have breathed a little bit more in that space, because it's so incredible. And it's obviously you can see the film multiple times to really take it in, but it's one of the most incredible set pieces I've seen in some time in a film, so bravo on that.
Yeah. Thank you. It was Chris, Siggers. It was everyone. It was every department really went to town on that. And I remember hanging out with Dane at the end in there, and all their artwork hanging out. It was amazing. All the pieces were in there, and it was a sick set. It was
actually you were dressing in the body of Elizabeth Shaw at that time, when I was just sort of hanging around making sure that the drawings didn't go missing, really, and wasting time on set because it was so cool to be there.
Yeah, it's just cool to hang out in there. It was just a great set. Yeah, that the Shaw body that was headed up by Colin Ware. He did a fantastic job on that.
I want to I don't want to take too much of your time, but I have two things I want to ask you guys about that are brief, and then I'm going to pass it over to Clara to kind of wrap this up. Again, I'm really grateful that you guys have taken the time. So my two things are, there, of course, in the run-up to Alien Covenant, there was a lot of imagery, obviously. There's scenes that are up close of the neomorphs, wait a minute, I always get the names confused, or the protomorph, or whatever it was, in the shower, and there's rain, or there's water pouring over it. Was any of that practical? And my next question is, there's a scene where after David and Walter have fought, and David does something to Walter, and Walter kind of clams up and falls to the floor. And I'm curious if that was a practical thing, or if that was how that was done.
Yeah, so jumping back to your xenomorph question, yeah, we were sitting in the shower with so not only did we have the full-scale Andrew suit for the xenomorph, we had basically torso up bust of the xenomorph, which was an animatronic rod puppet. So that had more animatronic elements and features than the one that Andrew was wearing, just for weight restrictions and things like that. And that was on a dolly, so we were literally pushing into that shower scene with the animatronic version of the xenomorph, which had the mouth, had the tongue, had the arms and head, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, there are some photos kicking around. I'm sure I've posted them before. That have taken from on set without actual puppet in there, and there's definitely elements that are ours in there, and it did look. That's probably my favorite xenomorph scene. It felt to me like that was a proper xenomorph. There's proper alien kind of feel to that scene. It was the great white shark sort of coming in just out of the dark. It was that was great. And yes, so there are elements. That would be a question for Charlie, just how much, if any, of our things sort of for that particular scene ended up in there. But it certainly wasn't far from what we shot practically. And the David Walter thing, yeah, we did. That was the whole, there's a bit of a neck prosthetic sort of kicking around for a while, and there's a little tight element of flesh that sort of stabbing moment, but it was very quick as well. That action was very quick, but I really like that scene actually. It's quite it was quite brutal, and the way he just sort of collapses.
Yeah,
kind of
like a spider almost. When you kill a spider, they kind of like their body just kind of contracts in. It's very interesting.
That's right. Mm.
So, Clara, I'm going to hand it off to you if you have another question or whatever, and to wrap this up.
Yeah. Oh my God, I've still got another page of questions, but I'm trying to narrow it down to what I really want answered.
We could always do a part 2. No.
Yes, please. That'd be great. But I'll ask you, which was your favorite practical effect to work on in Alien Covenant, and which one was your favorite to which was your favorite scene in the movie?
Okay. What's yours?
Oh boy. Favorite. I just love David's lab.
Me too.
Environment is just a wonderful thing. I'd say that might be my favorite part of the film, I suppose. Element.
When he's showing Orem around.
It's such a collaboration of so many people who worked on the film in different departments, and it's really neat.
It's I don't think everyone in especially creature department, but I think most departments, as Dane was just saying, that was pretty special, David's lab. But effects wise, for me it's a toss up between it's pretty close between the mouth burster, back burster, Hallett or Ben, because I think there are elements in there that work really well. I had a lot of fun. Well, I guess with the Hallett dummy, because it was Nathaniel. I hadn't worked with Nathaniel for a long time, and it was just a lot of fun. First effect for our department, and first principal photography had just started out at Milford Sound, so there was a whole heap of things. There was a lot of excitement and a lot of energy that went into that. It was great. I really liked that, but. Yeah, practically there was some stuff in there that we haven't actually spoken about, but in the workshop, there was so much testing and things going on that just exploring how we could achieve certain looks, and it just was really, some of it was really old school. Just like, for instance, we built a face hugger cannon, and
what really?
we had a practical egg that opened up, and then we were underneath that set, and there literally was a cannon that fired out the face hugger was sprung loaded leg. So Wayne Stuckey and the guy, Thomas built this rig, and they shot out this foam sprung loaded.
So you curl all the legs in while it was in the tube, and then
fire it out.
I'll have to commission you guys to make me one.
Well, it was so cool because it was literally in the workshop, and we're just firing it, and you could, different lengths, and you could measure it out, and it was just so, it shouldn't have been that fun. But taking that on set and having a stunt guy sort of put his head in the egg, and then having Ridley go 75% more, and then it was just cool, crank that up and just smash it into a stunt double's face. It was really fun.
Oh my god, that's so awesome.
Misfires on set,
the misfires were great.
The inside of the egg when that neck that Greg and
Greg McKee made the
rolling around inside under the membrane.
The first time you sort of look into the egg, you see that, and that was again literally someone under the set with a drill and a tail, sort of face hugger tail, sort of wrapped around this offset sort of kidney shaped cam, and it was just covered in KY, and it was really simple but really cool and really creepy. So elements like that.
I wish I could have seen the blooper reel for that. That would have been amazing.
Yeah,
us too.
That was a lot of fun. I mean, and then also as a department, just again getting back into the shop, was rehearsing with the chestburster puppet. This little rod puppet that we had. A bunch of us, working out how to choreograph movements and uncurl it and come up and out. Lots of fun stuff there.
Yeah, it's great. You've got a team of people all puppeteering, something like that. It's a lot.
Did Yuli have a practical effect face hugger on the end of his gun when he was struggling, or was that all CG?
No, I was wrapping that onto the gun on set. With fishing line and monofilament. So that was on there.
Yeah, there's a lot of, everything was done in camera.
Throwing it at him.
Yeah. Tightening the tail around the neck. Yeah, we did all that. Yeah. That was done. I was pulling that off camera as tight as I could around the neck. And then, Greg McKee and Matt Ward made walking face huggers. I've posted. Oh, you've probably seen that in some of the behind
it looks really cool. It
really cool.
So reminds me of Aliens when they did the walking one as well. It's really great to see you guys do it too.
Yeah.
So that was
little boxes you've got to tick when you're working on these films. I don't want to.
Yeah, but there's so many great moments and memories in there. Not all of them sort of end up transpire into the finished final film, but for us, making them and testing them and working with great crew and friends was that was the highlight. Pretty magic.
Yeah,
awesome.
I just wanted to just mention before we wrap this up, the chest burster. It's so not everyone, sorry, that's very cruel. A lot of people seem to be very they dislike the scene because it's nothing like the original Alien. What was Ridley's instruction to you about creating the chest burster for Orem and the way the puppet was supposed to emerge from the body?
Yeah, look, we knew that was going to be that was going to be very divisive. That was going to divide our audiences like nothing else I think in that film would and has. I don't really know how to answer that question. That is something that only Ridley can kind of answer. But he was very clear with what he wanted from this chest burster, and what he wanted our puppet to do.
And he did a sketch that looked.
Yeah, it was Ridley's drawing that was pretty much what ended up being, sculpted by Dom. It was very, very close, that hammerhead kind of thing, newborn. And that's what he wanted. And it's not, it's not really much point sort of just banging on about, but this doesn't look like the original, it's like Ridley's aware of that, and he has a,
He made that decision.
He made that decision. It's his film.
Yeah.
So I understand why. I totally understand why that's divided audiences, and I think we all had a lot of doubt and questions about that particular design and the way that scene would play out. But it is what it is. That was the Covenant chestburster. That was what Ridley wanted, and that's...
Yeah, I have to admit to you guys, it did make me really angry the first time I saw it. I really apologise now. Because, I've spoken to Dom, and, he's a great guy, and we've spoken about the puppet, and I see it with new eyes now. My daughter's watched Covenant with me. She's seen all the behind the scenes and stuff like that, so she knows it's all fake. And she loves that scene. She absolutely loves it. When she sees the baby alien come out of Billy Crudup, she starts to cry, and she's like, "It's so beautiful."
Wow.
So yeah. I've learned to appreciate it now with the new generation. So
Well, regardless, it's the artistry involved is amazing. I think that's the point. Like, whether we like it or dislike it or have many opinions, it's really beautifully done for sure.
Yeah, I can't fault it. That puppet is perfect. Everything about that scene worked for the movie. So,
thank you.
Yeah, guys.
Yeah, I thank you. It was to be honest, it was a really lovely puppet. It was something we hadn't done before with that sort of level of translucency, and the full sculpted metal armature in there, and it was a really lovely puppet. But yeah, so if you can certainly understand why hardcore fans are like compare it to the original chestburster, and they just don't dig it. That's fine. Yeah.
I think it's just really cool to see how far practical effects has come from back in 78, 79 when they made it. And now you guys have obviously tried to honour the original vision, because this is originally what Ridley wanted, and what practical effects failed to do back then. And you guys, you've done a great job. Covenant is my favourite movie, so I love it.
Oh wow! Thank you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was for us, for the practical and creature effects guys. It was we had really old school effects. Like really basic, like I said, firing, rubber face huggers, to 3D printed elements and, translucent silicons that weren't around in the original. So there was a really nice range of technologies and resources that we sort of called upon. And that, for me, that was a lot of fun, just to do really old school latex kind of stuff, and high-end sort of printing technologies. So yeah.
Excuse me.
That's okay. Well, I just again, I want to thank you guys for coming on here and talking with us. You didn't have to do this. Obviously, I know again that you're busy. The fan community is very big. Despite the different opinions that people have of Covenant, aesthetically, in terms of the artistry, it is amazing, and we're delighted to be able to speak to you guys. So, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for answering all of our questions.
Pleasure. No, it's a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Thanks for asking.
For more on this and our other projects, please visit www.perfectorganism.com. If you'd like to join the conversation, find us on our closed Facebook group, Building Better Worlds. To support the show, please consider visiting www.perfectorganism.com/support. We've got some great perks available. And as always, please consider rating, reviewing, and sharing the show. We can't tell you how much your support means to us, but we can hopefully show you by continuing to provide better, more ambitious, and more dynamic content for years to come.